listeners, and welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters valiantly try to reclaim the crazy cat lady romance reader aesthetic. We're bringing you Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood, Part 2 this week, and boy, are things heating up in this book. Like, for real, we debate challenging Ali Hazelwood's editor to a duel over the spice level in her future books because, man, has she been reining it in. We also get into some pretty deep chats about friendship and sex, too. Don't forget to follow us on socials so you don't miss all the juicy memes about this book. Leave us a rating and review, and enjoy the show. Can I describe the hairstyle for our listeners? So Rachel had basically, what the little Swedish like braid crown, basically. She had that to work today, but the ponytail fell out. So now she has a weird like looped over French braid, and it looks like a rejected Princess Leia hairstyle. I feel like that's the vibe that you should be getting.
Be great for the megachurch, because if you want to go with like a fundamentalist vibe, you know, which I know really aren't the same thing, but like they kind of are, you know. But they have megachurches here, and Stefan, our brother, really wanted to go when he was here, but he wasn't here on a Sunday. But it did put the idea into my head, and I don't know if he would feel like betrayed or anything, but I think it would be hilarious. I don't know why.
Why would you have to wait for Sunday? You're telling me a megachurch doesn't have like something going on every day?
They don't. I looked it up. I mean, they don't have like services that I know of. Yeah, no. You would think.
Seems like a real big waste of real estate.
Yeah, but that's like literally every church if you think about it.
Yeah. Surprise.
All right, where are we?
Levi had just whipped out the secret blueprints that we never get any explanation for how he got them, and we ended specifically on you pointing out that Levi had a tuft of fur on his shirt.
Perfect. I found that. Okay. They have like formed a tentative truce at this point. So Levi has we found out that B was wrong about Levi like wanting to sabotage her on the project. And in fact, he was the only one in this snake ass NASA park that like wasn't trying to screw her over.
Well, I mean, Kaylee wasn't trying to screw her over.
Okay. Well, like the employees didn't really know. Like the only like leader, like the only person in a position of power. And so now they're like, wow, like a truce. Like, what else could she be wrong about? Who's to say?
Okay. This was so frustrating because
I know,
so stubborn about being like. So she goes after Levi, and she's like, okay, like you were actually standing up for me. You were wrong, like whatever. So like I know you don't like me, but like as long as you keep it professional, like and we work together amicably, like it's fine. And she says specifically, she's like, sometimes she's like, oh, he's like, wait, what? Like, I don't like you. And she's like, listen, it's not your fault. Like, quote, sometimes dislike is a gut reaction, like falling in love at first sight, except the opposite. Yeah. And all I can imagine is Levi just like falling to his knees and being like, no, but like internally.
I know. And like up to a certain point, it's not unreasonable that she like continues, you know, well, not that it's not unreasonable, but it's like, it's par for the course, right? With like everyone, right? That's how it goes. But like, I don't even know like where I would draw the line, but like the line has been drawn, and we have just like leaped across it because like she just continues. And like at some points it's like unclear if it's supposed to be a joke, you know, kind of like jokey, but like no, I think she's serious. Like she's like, yeah, I know we hate each other. We're sitting in hostile, companionable silence. It's really like a nice silence. Like it's actually no different than a companionable silence, but it is hostile because we hate each other. Like,
oh my god, it's so. And then she just continues. She stretches that out to the breaking point, and then when they finally like start hooking up, she's like, "Oh well, we're just friends. We're just friends with benefits. We're just friends."
Well, that makes
sense. He doesn't like me. No,
but that makes
sense. He's taking me on dates. He doesn't like me.
He has confessed. I mean, spoiler alert, like he's been in love with her this whole time. He has confessed to being in love with her, and she's like, oh, we're just friends. He's just getting out of his system whatever of the lingering attraction he might still have from like 7 years. Whatever he might still have, like, you know, he'll just have to get it out of his system and like move on, get it over with.
Like, you talk about like someone having their head in the sand. Like hers isn't just in this. Her head has like burrowed down to the bedrock.
Oh
Like
my
she's
God.
so deep. She's like going to China. Like that's how far like she's digging with her. Like I was like,
my God.
B, you are so
Girl.
like detrimentally so. I was like,
I know.
girl, like I know that you've been working out in therapy, like the whole shit that happened with Tim, but like I think that this should be the focus of your next round of therapy.
Well, she really hasn't. It was just like briefly. It was just briefly like a few years ago. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I feel like I'd sort of put them in different categories, but like, yeah, very like head in the sand the whole way. And then we, for some reason, like the Marie Curie stories, like I know I said I didn't mind them, but like I really didn't see I saw their relevance like maybe 50% of the time. And the other 50%, I was like, okay, cool. I love a fun fact. I love a fun fact, especially about our girl Marie. But like I don't know the connection. So we get this like Marie Curie story about like how after Pierre died, like Marie had a quote unquote affair, like which was actually just hooking up with some dude who was like 5 years younger than her, and the press was like really mean about it. Like this man, and then
was
she
like also like
40,
escaped to vacation land with like
her
with
BFF.
her friend.
Oh, so I guess that's the relevance. It's like Vita's like, I don't have a friend anymore.
Yeah, she's like monologuing about her best friend. And I mean, I didn't really think about most of these Marie Curie things in the context of the book. I was just like, oh, fun fact interlude. Like I really like did not at all. Same. I was just like, oh, this is just a break. Okay.
Right.
I like history. But she's monologuing about Marie Curie and her best friend. And I'm like going off and like living together like on the seaside. And I was like, okay, but consider gay. I was like, what? Like, who's to say that Marie Curie wasn't bisexual? Who's to say she wasn't in a polyamorous relationship with her BFF
but also
and this man?
Okay, this is like the one time I'm going to say this, but like, who's to say she also just didn't have a strong female friendship? Like, why are we? I don't know.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, I'm just saying, like, that lady could be her actual best friend. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't know. Like, I don't know.
¿Por qué no los dos? Listen, it's very common, Rachel. It's very, very common in the queer community for people to remain friends with their exes.
Sure. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, it could be. And I know that, like, yeah, history obviously would not record that. But I also feel like, and I guess this isn't really, I don't know why I'm like getting into this rant right now, because this applies like equally to heterosexual and homosexual relationships. Probably more to heterosexual, honestly. But I feel like friendship is like so often overshadowed as like almost like an inferior like relationship type, when really it can be like just as, if not more important, you know, depending on who you are.
Yeah, for sure. I was just reading it was a memoir. I was trying to remember. That was like the same thing where like it's called Everything I Know About Love, and it's like an essay collection, and she has like a best, like the person who was the real life person has like a best friend, and it's like, I'm gonna like, I don't know whether I'm gonna grow old with a man, but I'm gonna grow old with like my best friend.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, that, yeah, and I mean, I feel like that is relevant to this book, because I mean, we'll get there, but I was in tears at one point in this book, and it had nothing to do with a romantic relationship. I'll say that much.
I know, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but it like, I don't know, it just did. Okay,
we'll get to it. Okay, so then Levi's wearing a Henley. This is important, and he's rolled up the sleeves so we can see his muscular forearms. So just important to know.
Oh my God.
But he does this in a meeting in which his engineering bros are like steamrolling B. She's like, hey, we have to do this, otherwise the thing won't work. And then this one guy is just like, impossible, except not cute like Whitney Houston.
Right. He's like, actually, I took a neuroscience class in college, so I think, and Levi's like, can you like shut the fuck up? Like, B has her PhD. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, he stands up for her.
Yeah, he does. But B calls this, which was Annie, her grad school best friend's term, sausage referencing, which is like when like, you're right, but it takes like a man telling the group for people to believe you. Yeah, and she's like, I hate that this is like necessary. Like, it's simultaneously like a good thing for Levi that he did that, and like, why is this necessary?
Yeah, I mean, but it's definitely something that like I have had to
for sure
like have happen.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, not even just professional environments, even just like in conversation with friends, I'll be making like a good point, and then like with like another
one of my male friends, and then he like doesn't get on my side until like another male friend is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
And it's like related. It's like the nicer cousin of when like you're saying something and usually a man just like repeats it and then everyone's like, oh yeah, like good point. Like, but that's like at least like you're getting credit for it in like the sausage referencing context, whereas the sausage steamrolling is like you know, or I don't know what you would call it.
No, I literally remember like having, it was a very tense filled conversation. It was like something in college. You don't need to know the context. It was me and a girlfriend and talking to two men. And literally for the first 15 minutes of this conversation, they did not let her finish a sentence once. And finally I was like, can you shut up? I was like, you have not. You have not allowed her to finish. And they were just like, oh yeah, sure, of course, finish, like talk. And then they were just so butthurt about it for like the rest of this conversation that they kept being like, listen, let me finish. Like you said that it's important to let people finish talking. I hate and I was just like, no. I was like, you're steamrolling you're again. Debt. Like, yeah. I was like, 25% of this conversation has been me, and 75% of this has been you. So let's like even the scales a little bit.
You're in interruption debt, so like you need to pay that off with interest before we can get on that. We can have that talk.
Yeah, yeah, with interest. Thank you. Basically, you should just agree with me now in order to like get back in my good graces.
Oh my god. Okay, so we're good.
There's also tension about someone named Sullivan because they're like, oh, we can't change the prototype.
Yeah, and everyone it's really tense. Like there's some secret, like who's Sullivan? The building's named after him, like which is crazy actually. Now that I just thought about that. Like a whole building, a whole like government astronaut building. Who the fuck
was the building named after before? Like, there's no way that building was just like Building 10.
No, for
like
sure.
That building definitely had a name.
Oh no, I feel like that happens all the time. At least like according to Schitt's Creek, when like I forget, there's like a whole episode. Well, because they're poor now, so like stuff gets renamed from like Moira to like some other rando or something. Whoever can pay, highest bidder. Well, maybe it's in the contract. True. Maybe when you donate, it's like you get this for 20 years, and then like maybe you have the option to like renew or something, but like, you know,
good chance. I do remember that when I was giving tours in college, like they had just like renovated / like made like they like redid like this building on campus, and so it like didn't have like a name yet, like all the other buildings. And I remember like making a joke once, and I was like, and if you have $2 million, you can get your name on this building, like ha ha ha, and then like deadly silent, like. Nobody on the tour laughed at this, and I was like, ooh.
That's funny though. That was good.
That was should not have said that.
Wait, why though? I don't get it.
Not. I don't know. It just. Listen. All I have to say is it did not make it into the joke roster. It did not make it into my winners. I had several like winning jokes that like got said every single time, and everybody laughed. And sometimes I would experiment, and sometimes they just fell flat. Unfortunately, don't make jokes just about like a lame $2 million.
That sounds like it was just a lame group. That's a good joke. That's a good joke. It's a great joke, even. Okay, so now we had this little interlude where Rocio is like, she's like, I hate it. I need to leave. And B's like, why? Rocio's like, I hate Kaylee. I hate her. What?
You skipped a cat appearance. So the cat was back, and once again, she was the only one who could see the cat.
Right, but I had already said the cat pun that I wrote down for that one, so hysterical, so I skipped it.
Oh. You were like, so it's not important.
No, because I like already said it. I didn't want to repeat myself.
She leaves out treats for the cat.
And she gets her a cat bed like in her office and leaves the vent open, which we're going to find out later. Like, so the cat, she's like, she probably comes in through the vents. Like, someone comes in one time and they're like, oh, we should repair that vent. She's like, no, then Felicette won't be able to get in.
Yeah, wait, what the fuck is the cat's name?
Oh, it's I guess we didn't say this. So she doesn't name it Meowie Curie, sadly. She names it Felicette, which is the first cat in space. It's spelled Felicette. Which probably means that cat died in space, to be honest with you.
Oh, 100%. That's like a Russian cat. That's basically just like girl cat. I feel like that basically translates to girl cat.
No, it was a stray Parisian cat. It was part of the French. It was a really cute cat.
Wait. Aww. Okay. See, I didn't catch what it was named after. I just like heard. I was like, this is a vaguely sounding French name, and it felt very much like an attack.
Oh my god! Wait, Allison. I don't even know if I should say this. It's too sad.
Don't tell me.
She survived. She survived the space flight, right?
Uh-huh.
But they purposely killed her 2 months later to look at her brain. I know. Isn't that so rude?
Are you fucking kidding me? I'm so upset.
I know. Goddamn French. Why were all the cats female? Like, they were like, human women, not okay. But we will be discriminatorily using only female cats.
Female cats.
And killing them.
Oh, the headline is Space Cat Back Alive.
Oh my God. I'm so angry about this. I'm glad Ali Hazelwood didn't put this in the book. Okay, so interlude for Rocio to bitch about how much she, quote, hates Kaylee. And B's like, how you feel about Kaylee is how Levi feels about me. And Rocio's like, Levi doesn't hate you. He stares at you a lot. B's like, what? I've never seen him stare. And Rocio's like, it's always when you're not looking, which is like just so Mr. Darcy, except that Elizabeth knows that Mr. Darcy's staring at him. But
it's Mr. Darcy. It's like Edward. It's like every fucking romance hero.
Mm-hmm. Also,
ever.
well, in B's defense, not that like she definitely wouldn't have realized no matter what, but she does think that Levi is married with a child at this point. They both think the other person is married up until this point, but don't worry because it's time for the cemetery to put that all to bed. Literally. Time for her quote unquote couch to 5K, which consists of like running literally a minute again. Like she's supposed to run 5 minutes. She makes it like 1 or 2, right? And she goes to the cemetery.
So I can only
nice.
assume she's like sprinting. Like I can't assume
right.
Because
she's like literally limping. Reason. Yeah, it's crazy.
She's like a you know what I mean? Like she's not super in shape, but like a person of like probably average, like
could jog. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Or like at least I understand getting out of breath, right? Like that's the hardest part, I think. But like to be like actually sore right away, like that just doesn't add up.
For your legs to be shaking?
Right. No. And also Houston is extremely flat, like extraordinarily flat. You would not believe how flat the city is.
Yeah, she's going for a run. And we get a confirmation that she's listening to Alanis Morissette, in case you were like wondering about that holdover from last episode.
Sitting on the edge of my seat for that.
I know you were. So she runs to a cemetery, and I was like, I did that too when we lived in a cemetery.
Me too. Yeah,
the cemetery
nice.
was great to run in.
It was great. For some reason, I'm picturing this one as like much smaller, but I have nothing to back that up. She's in the fucking cemetery. She like flops down because she's so tired. TM. And then finally she's like, oh, it's time for me to hobble home in the darkness. And the gates are locked. Classic. And she's like, okay, well, like, should have seen this coming. I am just now thinking in quite a worried way that I might have made an error.
Her phone is at 10%.
Yeah. Oh my God. The worst. I can so feel this. And I personally, as someone who apparently now can never let my phone die or leave the house without my phone, because I will literally be locked out of my building. Like that is my one way to get in. Oh my God. Horrible. She's like, I have 2 people's numbers. She calls Rocio. Rocio doesn't pick up. Like, yeah, obviously.
Probably because she's like hooking up with Kaylee.
Off the clock. Yeah, right. On, yeah. And I don't know why she doesn't have like Guy's number, but she's like, Levi is the only other person. Like, oh, but he's probably home with his family and whatever. I'm going to call him. Levi immediately picks up and she's like, I'm in a cemetery. And he's like, you got locked in, didn't you? I'll be right there.
And then after she hangs up, she's like, and then I just realized that like I hadn't even asked him to come get me. He was just like, I'll be there.
Right. And he does come with a ladder and gets her out. And he drives her home. And then she realizes she doesn't have her keys. And like as soon as she says that, Levi's like immediately pulling out of the parking spot, starting to drive. She's like, where are we going?
You're coming home with me.
You're coming with me. And she's like, oh my God, this is me so fucking awkward. Like, I don't want to go stay at this guy's house with his kid and his wife. Like, that's just so awkward. She's like, I can't come. And he's like insisting until he like somehow gets it in his head that it's because she's like, I really just don't feel comfortable. And he's like, oh, if you don't feel safe, okay, I'm turning right around, like U-Haul. And she's like, no, I actually do feel safe with you, which is weird because I don't usually feel safe with like most men I don't know that well. even like Guy, who's like such a nice guy, like literally TM, he was standing in my office the other day and I kept looking out the door like, don't know why. File that away for never, to never reflect on why I'm creeped out by him.
So they rolled to her house, to his house, and she's like, oh my God, it's like my dream house back when I wanted a husband and 2.5 kids.
Does it, Olive in the Love Hypothesis, say the same thing about, there's another book, maybe The Hating Game I'm thinking of, when she's like, I really love it. I'm sure that's a common trope, but it's not like, I'm just trying to think of like who says that. Whatever.
I don't think it's in The Hating Game or The Love Hypothesis.
I think it's definitely in The Hating Game.
I think The Hating Game, she's like, oh, I like his apartment.
Yeah.
I don't know
there's
that
something where it's like, I love this house. What happened? It happened one summer, Piper with Brendan's house.
No, I was thinking it was another Ali Hazelwood. It was one of the novellas. When they both inherit the house.
Right, that too. No, I think what I was thinking of was it happened one summer, but yeah, also that. Okay, and he's like, I'll cook you dinner. Like, I was cooking for myself anyway. And I'm so bad at judging portion sizes. Like, silly me. I always make too much.
Oh my God. Yeah, wait, when does she say that?
She says it at some point. It's not yet, but like it's going to be the next thing at work. She's like, Levi always brings snacks and he's just so silly. Like, he always makes too much. He shares with me.
I was like, girl.
Oh my God.
Girl. I just feel like especially when you're vegan, like, because those ingredients are so expensive and like the recipes have to be so precise in order for it to like taste good. Like, there's no way you're making extra.
Somehow Levi is like much richer, which doesn't really make sense, but don't question it.
Well, he's been working for longer.
Sure, but like
he's been working for like 5 years longer than she has.
Yeah, but she's also like, oh, I make nothing. Anyway, she's like, oh, nothing. He's cooking for her right now. She still doesn't know he's vegan. She's like, oh, nothing he makes is gonna be something I can eat. And then she like starts looking through his cupboards. Totally would do that. And it's like all like vegan stuff. And she's like, she finally is like, oh my God, like I'm an idiot. Like oh
my God,
the donut, like God.
But then she's finally like, all right, like, where the fuck are your wife and child? Like,
right.
Why aren't they here? And he's like, I don't have a wife or a child. Like, what? He's like, I have a cat who is elderly and named Schrodinger.
Oh my God.
Like, other than that, no.
And we find out, she's like, well, who was that little girl like in the picture in your office? And he's like, oh, that's my friend who's a single mom's daughter. We did used to date. We don't now, but I am basically a surrogate father to this child. And she's like, okay, nice, good. No need to question. Great.
And then he gives her a shirt because she's all sweaty. So like,
oh my God,
he gives her one of his shirts, and we get the moment where he like has a heart attack because he sees her wearing one of his shirts, and it's incredible. And just throughout this entire scene, she keeps being like, yeah, you hate me. And this man doesn't correct her once.
He just like
and
rolls his eyes.
Much later in the book, he's like, you need to like get over. He's like, we need to like cure you of this like misapprehension that like I hate you, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but like I understand that like you don't hate her, and that like your actions have demonstrated you don't hate her, but I don't think you've ever said. Do you recall, Rachel?
No, he
a
doesn't.
Time that he ever says I don't hate you? Like he doesn't do it.
No, he doesn't.
He never corrects her.
No, he doesn't.
I'm like, boy, it's the first step. The first step is saying that she's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So then they have a nice night.
Yeah. Like very chaste night, which like extremely rude. Like,
well, there's more than one bed. Unfortunately, he does have a guest room, so we don't get that.
No, like I get it.
Where do you keep going?
To throw my hair in the trash.
Okay. Okay, so the next day, Guy, Levi, and Bea are out having lunch, and Guy asks her out, and Levi, like, Guy asks her out, but he does it like while her and Levi are having some weird sexual tension grape stealing, like where they're making eye contact and like stealing each other's food. So like she doesn't really hear, and she's like, what? And then Levi's like, dude, she's married. And I was like, oh, finally, we're going to get this cleared up.
Right.
Like, he's going to know she's not married.
I know.
No. And she's like, oh, well, he knows I'm not married, but because I wear my grandmother's wedding ring, like, oh, he's just trying to like give me an excuse to like say no to Guy. Like, obviously he knows I'm not married. And I was like,
because then he says like, oh, it's Tim. Like,
yeah.
Like, so it's not like, because she could, because it would make sense if she was like, oh, well, maybe he thinks I'm married to someone else, but like, no.
He thinks that she's married to Tim. And she's like, oh, why did he have to pick Tim? Like, that's such a, like, everybody knows about what happened with me and Tim. Like, oh, I wish he just like made someone up.
Right. God.
But yeah, so B helps Rosio study for the GRE.
Yeah, and Kaylee walks up, and they're like struggling, and it's like, oh, Rosio's just too smart for the GRE, and it's like, okay, the GRE is dumb, but like, whatever, doesn't matter.
Well, because they're doing it, and she's trying to solve
what about the imaginary numbers.
B's trying to get her solve this like basic like algebra equation, and then like she's like, well, what if it's imaginary? What if it's like blah 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 blah? And I'm just like, girl. Surely there was a time when like you knew how to do just these simple equations. Anyway, Kaylee appears and it does a whole monologue about burning the institution down and like getting rid of the GRE and how the GRE is terrible. And I was like, yeah, standardized tests are stupid.
And Rosio just like stares at her like, I am in love.
She falls in love. Yes. She falls in love. And luckily, ladies and gents, Kaylee is going to grad school at Johns Hopkins, which is where Rosio wants to go.
Who could have seen that coming? She's like, I'll help you study because like my parents paid for a class. So like I remember it. Like I'll help you. Which like wouldn't really be that helpful to have like someone's, but whatever. It's for plot reasons. It's great. Also, Kaylee just drops. She's like, I forget what the context this is, but she's like, oh, Levi is the best boss I've ever had. Like he harassed NASA into giving me health insurance. And like earlier B like saw Levi interacting with like the gang and she's like, wow, they all like really seem to like him. Like that's so weird. There's no way he's actually a beloved boss. Like very Pride and Prejudice-y, very like
it was so the housekeeper at Pemberley. He's the best master I ever had.
Right. I know. And this is why I wrote down, like, I just don't understand how she keeps thinking that he hates me. Like, after he literally rescued you from a cemetery and let you stay at his house. It's like, okay.
And made you tacos, vegan tacos.
And packs you snacks every day.
Yeah, and this is when she's like, yeah, we keep working late. And he keeps like accidentally bringing snacks.
In our hostile companionable silence. Okay, and then they have, like, girl.
I want someone to secretly like make me food, like despite the fact that I'm idiotically oblivious to it. Like I just thought, I have extra.
Right.
Because you know what I mean? Because I think I would get uncomfortable real quick with someone like making me food, like bringing me food all the time, especially like if we weren't like dating, you know what I mean? Like just like a friend or a coworker, but someone being like, oh, I just have extra. I'd be like, oh, great, I'll take some.
Right. Oh, God. So then they have this like little tense scene that's like simultaneously like sexual tension, but also like sort of plot relevant. B's like, oh, where's this like file or whatever? And Levi's like, oh, it's here. It should be here. And she's like, I bet it's not. I can't find it. And they have this like bet. And basically like, so he wins the bet. And what he wins is that like they're going to run a 5K together. And I like this parallel of like Kaylee training Rosio for the GRE. And then like Levi's going to train her for a 5K.
Yeah.
And then he's like standing behind her, like too close, whatever. And basically like Levi's like, oh, well, this isn't the first time this has happened. Like files keep getting moved and like you weren't getting those emails. Like I bet it's someone on the team's fault. I'll talk to them. And B's like, no, what if it's not their fault? We should investigate. And I'm like, okay, this is like possible. Like neither of them seem to take it as seriously as I would think you'd be like required to take it at literally NASA. Like I just feel like something like that. It's like, you would at least want to rule out some kind of security threat, like, right? I have no idea. I'm making that up, but like, it just seems odd that like, well, B's like, oh, we just shouldn't, like, for some reason, for like reasons, like, we shouldn't try to get to the bottom of it. Like, I don't understand.
And this is when I was like, I literally have a note that's like, oh, it's obviously like espionage. Like that's clearly what this is leading up to. It's not.
I know.
It's just one guy.
It would make so much sense. Like, come on.
Why isn't it espionage?
Right. Like the other company trying to steal blank. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay,
they don't even think that. Anyway, Boris walks in and he's like, hey guys, you're going to a conference. And they like to go spy, espionage, speaking of espionage, to go like spy, but actually just view a public talk by this other company that's like, I guess, foolishly presenting their research before getting a patent, before applying for a patent, but whatever.
I don't think they're doing like specific. I think they're because the way they said they're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
because they need investors or whatever.
So this is like literally again paralleling my life, but okay.
No,
Actually, never mind. Yeah. So she's going Nolan. So they go. They have to go.
And no, once again, she's like, oh, this is gonna be awkward. Ha ha ha. Like, because you hate me. And he's like, we've been over this. And I'm like, yeah, but have you? When did you have the conversation?
Yeah, no, you haven't.
I don't remember it.
And then, like, meanwhile, like, he was, like, walking her home every night because he's like, Houston is dangerous, which is true. And he's like, if you don't let me walk with you, I'll follow you, like, 12 feet from behind.
We get another man follows woman at a safe distance. And then she, like, tweets. She, like, accidentally starts an anti-GRE movement.
Hashtag fair graduate admissions,
and honestly, like, I felt a little justice tingle for Kaylee, because I was like, this is Kate. Like, Kaylee gave this whole monologue, like, you weren't even thinking about it, and now you're presenting it as your idea. What would Marie Curie do? Like, what?
No, see, I guess it's because this is such a familiar like topic to me. Like, no one in this book came up with this. I just figured like Kaylee was saying what like B and Rocio already knew, so it was just like us finding out that Kaylee like is with it and agrees with them. You know, but maybe not. Maybe it's supposed to be totally new information to the book. I don't know.
No, I don't think it. Like, I know it's not like new information, but I was just like, justice tingle. Like, you didn't even be like, I was having a conversation with a colleague. You just tweet it out into the ether,
I guess. So it goes like really viral. Like, starts this whole movement, and she also has this conversation with Schmack randomly, or Schmack, her online friend. I forget how this relates to the fair. Oh, he gets on board and he like helps her, and they like do a statement.
Yeah, and he's talking about the woman that he has a crush on.
Yeah,
the girl, and he's listing all the things he loves.
Monologue.
About her.
He's like, I wanted to push her against the wall. I wanted to push back, and that's the phrase they fixate on.
And I was just like, I don't know. Like, yes, it was hot and romantic. But I was also like, okay, Edward Cullen. He was like, I know the shape of her.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, all right, Edward.
Yeah, no.
I was like, this is a little too much for me.
Yeah.
This is a little too much.
No, I totally
We've stepped over a line.
Yeah, for sure. But B's into it, so like whatever. I guess that's fine.
As long as she's into it, like that's all that matters.
Then the next day we find out that Levi like called a meeting without B to chastise the group about the like missing files and stuff, even though B told him not to. And then they like get in a fight, and then she gives him the silent treatment while they're driving in their Nissan Altima, which is the same rental car that we had, if you remember.
Wow,
weird. Nissan Altima down to Nolan's,
and then he apologized.
He apologizes
for like going over her head. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm still gonna need like, I was like, we had already had one instance with like, you know, the trying to like get her off Blink thing where like he didn't tell her something that would have been like, he like went behind her back, and she already made it explicitly clear that she didn't like that and she didn't appreciate when he went behind her back.
Right.
So it was like frustrating that we had another moment. And yes, he was immediately like, I'm sorry, like that was really wrong of me, like we are co-leads, like I shouldn't have gone over your head like that. But like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we never really get an explicit example of him like actually walking the walk like after he does his apology. And I feel like I really would have like I wanted that. I was like, great, you apologize, but like that really means nothing if like I don't actually get evidence that you grew. And like I don't really think we did. And so I was like, what was the point of this other than just to show us that he was like going behind her back again, you know? Like I don't want that.
Right. Yeah. It was frustrating.
You know what? Like, but like honestly, he was already so much. Wait, what's the good color, black or red?
For what?
For like stocks, like this, like or finance.
Black is good, like in the black,
like being in the black.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's already in the black because he stood up for her, which is like more than I can say for like literally almost every other like workplace romance that I've read. Like, Josh in The Hating Game doesn't do it. Whatever his Aaron Blackford in The Spanish Love Deception doesn't stand up for her. Like. None of those men stood up for her, and Levi did. So I was like, okay, you had a leg up. You've been knocked down to normal level now, but like I'll let it slide.
Yeah. Also because like Yeah, I know he went behind her back, whatever. But I was like, you're right. You're like factually correct. Like, you should have talked to them. But also maybe you shouldn't. You should have like, because that turns out to be like, maybe you shouldn't have. You should have gone above their heads and gone to like, I know there's an entire NASA security department. Like, who's watching all those cameras?
You're not
like, right.
It's not just Guy. Like, this book seems to imply that Guy is like the only one who does IT.
And he's a fucking engineer. Yeah, like what? He's not even... Like, yeah, they definitely have an IT department. They definitely have a whole like security department, like cyber security, physical security, probably. Like, I'm sure, like round the clock.
Like, why are you guys being so laissez-faire about this?
Yeah.
But maybe Ali Hazelwood is like just trying to expose the truth of like, you think these government agencies are like serious and taking all of this seriously, but like, she definitely knows people that work at NASA. Yeah. Like,
or she works at NASA. Who's to say?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe this whole professor thing is just like a what's the word? Red herring.
Yeah.
To keep us off the scent. I mean, that's fine. I don't know what scent, but like,
she probably knows. So maybe Ali Hazelwood is like, please listen, they're so incompetent. Please, we need some oversight here. These people are running amok.
Or alternatively, she for some reason was like embargoed from at all talking about NASA's actual security, and I feel like it's better to like lull people, nefarious actors into believing that it's like less secure than it is, So she was like, I'm not going to make up fake protocol. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. They're in the car.
We're really deep diving into this.
They're in the car. And she's like, wow, his music. And she's like, wow, his music's really good. But then she's like, wow, you have no women performed songs on your phone. And did I not? I literally said that to our brother like a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel like it's the same reason. No offense, Steph, if you ever listen to this. Like Levi's like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, I'm not proud of it, but it's possible that my music taste was influenced by the fact that in my formative years, I too was an angry white boy. Because she's like, all your music is angry white boys.
Yeah.
I was like,
listen, I love some angry white boy music.
Yeah,
like, give me some like early 2000s pop punk any day. But
yeah. And then she also sees some roadkill and cries at it. And this is also the kind of thing that makes me question if like Ali Hazelwood is vegan or not. And she's like, well, we learned like other things. We just keep getting sprinkled in like shitty things about Tim that she'll say to Levi, and this man's sitting there being like, she is in like an abusive, like this is not a good relationship. But she's like, Tim used
still
to like
thinks she's married.
Right. I mean, maybe not abusive, but like it's not healthy. She was like, he used to like try to sneak meat. He would like deliver me meat lunches and like sneak non-vegan things. And he used to make me play this game called Guess the Roadkill to toughen me up. Like, but also like just the crying at roadkill. I don't know. It's just like, it just seems like such a weird like stereotypy thing. So I don't know. Maybe I'm sorry.
Well, she's like there's something up with like, and I don't say this in like a mean way. There's something up with Bee's brain. Right. We have some weird fainting thing, the like cry, like really just crying at anything. Like she cries all the time. And I'm not criticizing people that cry. Like I think it's healthy to cry, but I'm like, girl.
Where's she cry at besides roadkill?
I don't know. I just feel like she does,
Yeah, like, no, you're right.
I just feel like the roadkill is enough.
So then she puts her feet up on the dash, shoes off.
She puts her feet up on the dash and she calls her pinkies her Quasimo-toes.
Oh yeah, that's funny. She's like, I hope he won't take offense at my like ugly pinkies. I'm like, okay, well, confirmed. Levi has a foot fetish.
Wait.
What?
Doesn't Olive in the Love Hypothesis also have a thing where she's like, I have ugly feet?
Oh yeah. Well, that's because she's a runner, so it's for like a different.
I know.
Yeah.
But so far, Ali Hazelwood has only published 2 books, and in both books, it is explicitly called out multiple times that the heroine has ugly feet.
So does that mean?
What does this mean? Is this like an anti-foot fetish?
It could mean a lot of things. It could mean that Ali Hazelwood is like weirdly insecure about her feet or whatever, which like, okay.
Oh, Ali.
I'm sorry, Ali. Yeah, you're good. I'm sure you're good. Don't post pictures for people to see because you don't want to do that for free. But I'm sure you're good. Or 2, Ali Hazelwood does have a foot fetish and for some reason like wants to throw people off the scent or like is into ugly feet. Or I don't even know what really
ugly
makes an
feet
ugly
only.
foot. No, wait, that's the thing. It's weird. I guess I know what an ugly foot looks like. I was gonna say like I feel like if you aren't like, I just feel like most people don't really know what an ugly or a not ugly foot is. Well, ugly foot, ugly foot like gangrene.
Maybe
for
not
sure.
the nuances of it, but like
I guess most people wouldn't know what a nice foot is, but like, you know, I guess you can picture like a nasty foot, like, you know, nasty green toes.
Here's my thing. I feel like Ali Hazelwood has layers, and this is something that I will talk about more when we get to like the sex scenes, but I really feel like Ali Hazelwood's editor is like reining her, like restricting her from going the feralness that like she wants to achieve. And I finally, like, I had that sense reading this book, and I finally got more proof today because I was listening to an episode of Fated Mates, which is another romance podcast, and Ali Hazelwood was like one of many. They were doing like a panel, and Ali Hazelwood was on, and Ali Hazelwood, Rachel, enjoys reading Omegaverse and like writes Omegaverse fan fiction, and she's like, I'm trying to convince my editor to let me write an Omegaverse book, and she was like, my editor's in the audience, like everyone bully her into letting me write an Omegaverse book. So I'm just saying, somebody is shackling Ali Hazelwood, and I would like her to be let loose.
That feels so interesting and so different. Like, I feel like those are always like kind of like fantasy-ish. Would we put them in like a fantasy category? Because I feel like all her books are like so firmly grounded in the real world. Like, it's not even like historical or something. It's like very much like, like fantastical. Yeah, that's so interesting. Free her. Free Ali. Oh my God. Free Ali. Yeah. Jeez.
Free Ali Hazelwood from the shackles of her editor, who's making her write just normal contemporary.
That like, oh, she's being fed tropes thing was taken completely out of context, because what it is like, it's not that like she can't think of it's like this is being force fed to her as a replacement, where she actually like, wants to write.
They're like rating her back
tropes. Oh my God.
Like spritzing her with water bottles every time she tries to write an M-preg scene. Free her.
So like Levi like asked for her like backstory, and she's like, we moved around, I'm a twin, blah blah blah. And she's like, weird, he's actually like interested. It's so weird. Like, he actually cares.
And then he gives his backstory. He's like, my family's all in the military, and like I was forced to go hunting a lot as a child. But
and they're like disappointed that I'm not in the military.
Yeah, like basically his family sucks. And then she also offers to go to Thanksgiving with him next year.
Which feels so weird.
To stand up to his family. And I was like, all right, like that's interestingly intimate, but like fine. And so that was the point where I was already like, okay, so we're definitely getting a family standing up scene like later on. But I was like, okay, that's the nail in the coffin. But I was also like, that statement would have been the perfect opportunity to learn that she is not married, and yet, because all you had to do was him being like, wait, why would you come to Thanksgiving with me? What about your husband? And then she's like, haha, I don't have a husband. And yet.
Yeah, I definitely thought
and this was the point where I texted you, and I was like, listen, Rachel, when is this gonna get cleared up? Because I'm banging my head against the wall, and it's like basically the next scene.
Yeah, no, for real. So they get to the conference, and they're just like chatting, whatever, like talking to old people. And like, I forget, like Levi's like she's like, oh, do you want to get, like, what are we gonna do tonight or something? And he's like, oh, well, I figured you want to hang out with like your friend, like whose name I can't remember.
Annie.
He can't remember it. And she's like, oh, I can't believe he didn't remember her name, because Annie had like a huge crush on him. And she's like, why would I want to see Annie? Like, she's not even here. And Levi is just like not really paying attention. He's like, I thought I just saw her like a minute ago. And let me just tell you, like, the anxiety I got from this scene the first time I read it, like literally, like, I don't know, like heart palpitate, like palms sweat. It's just like seeing someone, like, I don't know, like traumatic, but like no one else knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she whirls around, and like there's Annie, and not just Annie, but Tim. Which, like, rude of her to talk to him, but okay.
Well, they work at the same lab. They're still both at Vanderbilt.
No, I know, but still, like, and then naturally B passes out. And I really could not with this audiobook. This audiobook is fine overall, but her like woozy voice, like, no, I just couldn't do it. It was too much.
Oh.
Like much.
I didn't know that. But it was at this point when I finally like fully grasped why the cover has Levi carrying her, because he spends like 20% of this book carrying.
Wait, I didn't even think of that, but also I did look at the cover, like it's sitting on my counter right now, and the only thing I still don't understand is like that she's like making kissing lips at him, like she's like,
yeah,
she's
like
trying to kiss him,
him,
which it doesn't make sense, but whatever.
Yeah, so then she finally tells him about Annie
first, he carries her upstairs. First of all, let me like emphasize that they're literally in a bed together, like as this conversation happens. And I get why like they can't hook up right now. It's like whatever, like emotionally vulnerable, whatever. But also like that's absolutely par for the course, right? Actually, no, I take it back. Like no, completely.
Actually, in the love hypothesis, they hook up like right after she gets sexually harassed. So I don't understand.
Well,
why
but he doesn't know.
Here.
He doesn't know is the difference. I feel like.
I know, but like,
yeah. Anyway,
they could like go out to dinner and then come back and hook up.
I know. Yeah, it's frustrating. But she basically tells him what happened with Tim, and I can't remember if we like said the whole thing. But basically, they met in college, like freshman year of college. They were together for like a really fucking long time, like I guess like 9 years. 7 years in, she finds out. Like they've been together 7 years, engaged for 3 years, when she finds out that he's been cheating on her like with a lot of people this whole time. Like that's why she was like, oh, everyone in the pit community like knew before I did. Like they all knew. And she's like, I don't blame the women, but like
what the fuck?
I know. And then she still has like fond feelings for some of these people. And I'm like, girl, like what? I mean, whatever. And she like really loved Tim's family. Like that's why she like stayed for so long. Like, they were so nice to her. And he was the first person to like invite her home for Christmas after her sister left and stuff. And so like the first time she found out, Tim basically tried to turn it around on her. And he was like, well, you don't like have sex with me enough. And like, you don't enjoy it. Cause he's like bad at fucking, classic.
He's a poker, not a scooter.
She's like, oh, like I'm going to do better. Like I'm going to make more effort. Like this is my fault really that he cheated on me. And so that was like lasted like another, I guess like 2 years. And then she finds out that he slept with Annie, her best friend. And not only that, but Annie slept with him. So it's like a double betrayal.
She finds them in bed together.
This really got me. She's like, I don't think about Annie too often because she's like, I don't really care about Tim, whatever. But like, I don't think about Annie that much because like the pain of losing her, I never quite learned how to manage. So sad. So they were all supposed to go, like they were like the Three Musketeers, like they were all going to go to like this really good lab at Vanderbilt together to work with this dude. But then obviously when she found out, she was like, I just fucking can't do it. Like I can't. And she like switched to this like worst job at NIH and like didn't tell her advisor like why she was doing it or anything. But so Levi is now just like, he hears this and he's just like sitting there in shock and he's like,
he has an existential crisis.
So you didn't marry Tim. And this man's reaction, this woman, okay, we've heard his like inner thoughts to his internet friend about like everything. He's been like pining like to an obsessive degree. His response to finding out she's not married is to get up, put his hands on the wall and be like, so what do you want to do right now? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, I have a great idea. Let's go for a run. Yeah. Let's go for a fucking run. Like, did Ali Hazelwood, is this our fault, Allison? Like, I know, like, did Ali Hazelwood hear the criticism of Olive and Adam both liking to run, but never running together and be like, this is what the people want. Less sex, more running on Paige. Because I take it back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I deserve this. I know. But like, please, no.
Do not make this poor woman run after like her emotional episode. Like, what is this? Did Levi just like watch Legally Blonde, and specifically the scene in Legally Blonde when she's like, endorphins make you happy. Happy people just don't
kill their husband. He's like, I don't want to get killed. So,
and he's like, no, he's like, well, endorphins make you happy, so I should take her for a run to make her happy.
No, before that, he was like, well, I shouldn't make her run because then she might kill her husband, which I want. Now that she doesn't have a husband.
So I'm looking out for me, looking out for numero uno.
Oh my God. And then B's like,
but then they get drinks. So
he's like, yeah. And B's like, oh, I don't expect you. Like, I know that you and Tim collaborate. Like, I don't expect you to like take my side. And he's like, we don't. And she's like, wait, you don't collaborate? Like, since when? He's like, since right now. Like, you're done.
Yeah. You're done. I love a man who's like, nope. I'm ready to cut anyone out of my life who is even a little bit mean.
Did Levi think that they were in like that her and Tim were in a long distance relationship this whole time? Like, he does not keep tabs on her. Like, because earlier he's like, oh, well, you can go back and see your partner like in Maryland. But like, he should obviously knows that Tim wouldn't be in Maryland. Like, Nashville and Maryland are really fucking far apart. Like, that's not really like a day trip. Like, I don't know. Anyway, they fucking run. And then they get drunk together and still nothing happens. Except what we do find out is that Levi's cat needs his anus expressed every so often.
And this is a running gag.
It is a running gag.
And you know, like some people, I think I guarantee you if I went to the Goodreads reviews right now and I like scrolled through them, like I would pretty quickly find someone who was like, oh, why are we getting this anus joke so much? But I was like, I don't know, I think it's funny. I can also see specifically, I think, because I can see myself like that becoming an in-joke between me and someone and then me running it into the ground.
Right, exactly. And like personally, yeah, I feel like it's critical. The sooner you can get inside jokes with a person, like the sooner, you'll feel comfortable with.
100%.
It's critical.
100%.
Critical. Because personally, those are the only kind of jokes I personally know how to make. So
no, like, and listen, like as someone with autism who doesn't read social cues well or like relate to people particularly well, like give me an inside joke and I'll make that the entire basis of our friendship. Like I need it immediately.
If there are other, exactly. If there are other kinds of jokes to be made, I don't know what's going on and I simply don't want to know.
Yeah, they also find out that both she finds out that Levi's like, yeah, I applied to the space to be an astronaut, but I was too tall.
Oh, because you have to be 5'1", 5'2" to 6'2", 6'3" or something.
Yeah, and he's like 6'4", where he's too tall. But he also says that space smells like rotten eggs.
Yes.
I didn't verify this. Is this true? Does space smell like rotten eggs?
I didn't verify it either, but I did say it to someone and they were like, I've heard that. So like I think it is true.
Why do you think? Oh, interesting.
He also does it smell like rotten eggs?
It's ammonia as well as rotten egg. Yeah, ammonia. Why space stinks.
God, even less reason. Like, of course they don't say that. They want to trick you.
Oh my God, imagine like living on the International Space Station for months and months and months, and like, I mean, I guess it's like airtight,
sealed.
So, like, you
it
can't
should be
smell
surely.
anything, and like when you go out,
if there's no sound in space, how are there smells? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I thought the reason there's no sound is because it's a vacuum. So how are there enough like smell particles to smell things is what I'm saying.
That's a great question. Somebody who knows more about space than us, please.
Is it actually not that space smells like egg, like, you know, like farts or whatever, but like because they have to like recycle everything and like just the space station smells like that? No,
right. Well, listen, think about this. When like the astronauts poop on the space station, they just like throw it out to space.
Do they?
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
They just like eject it out.
Okay, fair enough.
So like if space smells like shit, it's our fault.
Yeah.
Who knows? We also find out at this point that Guy has never actually been to space, that he wasn't an astronaut, like we said, that he failed the psychological screening. And this is when I was like, okay, if I had like any doubts about Guy being the villain, that's like the biggest red. This is a red flag the size of those American flags that car dealerships put out for like the 4th of July sale. Giant, massive, huge red flag.
Yes. But also, see for me, the red flag in the conversation, I think I said this before, but it was less that he like had failed the psychological evaluation, because like, I don't know, it just seems like a weird thing to be like, I don't know, like.
No, in real life, like I wouldn't be like,
but I still totally picked up on a red flag in that situation, and that's like that guy like let her believe that he had gone to space, like presumably to seem cooler, you know, like he did say, and I guess like in his defense, he never like he said it in a normal way, he didn't like craft it in a way to like trick her, but like whatever. Yeah, I mean maybe he did, but
in real life, I wouldn't like if someone was like, oh, I failed the psychological like evaluation. I feel like that's like, I don't know, I'm a little bit claustrophobic, and so like I fail. There's like, you know what I mean? Things. Like I feel like it's definitely so easy, like, but I'm like, it's because it's specifically mentioned in this book. Like there's no way that's not like a negative.
Right. Then they're gonna go lay on a bed together again, watching their favorite movie, The Empire Strikes Back,
and not even
and nothing happens.
Not even hold hands.
And nothing happens.
They share popcorn. That's the most intimate thing.
Levi does say, he's like, tomorrow when we actually go to the conference, if you see Annie and Tim again and feel how you felt today, just take my hand. And her first reaction is like, what would that do? And then she's like, wait, no, like that actually would do a lot. Like, good. Fair enough. Like, all right, whatever. Fair enough. A little less. Fair enough. But then they go to the thing and they're like, yeah, this presentation's like really fucking good. And she's like praying to Marie Curie that like the other company won't patent why can't I say patent it first, and she's like justifying it. She's like, they'll just sell it to whatever militia, like humans don't need help killing each other. It's like, okay, you're doing that too. And then they're trying to like abscond, and like they're like, we got to go back and work right away, like they're so ahead of us, they're so ahead, we gotta book it.
Yeah, well they're slightly ahead. Oh, but this is the point. Yeah, this is when I wrote a big long monologue about how like NASA definitely like gives technology to the military,
right?
But also I wrote a note in which I finally, and I can't point to what exactly like triggered this thought at this particular point, but the helmet. So like I don't know, did we ever describe the way the helmet works? It like stimulates parts of your brain, helps you like focus more, like whatever. Right. And I realized at this point that the helmet thing gave me very much the vibes of how like the Nazis gave their soldiers cocaine to like invade Russia and like whatever. I was like, this is like very like,
oh, I didn't think of that.
Give soldiers cocaine to help them like have more energy and like push through vibes.
And like we're never given, the demonstrations are always like making people like not be able to like speak. Like it's all just like negative things. Like
no, there are some like focus things that she does mention like in the final demonstration, like that his focus is increasing.
No, but that's true. Like it's so, but it just seems so like the helmet does a lot of cool shit, like cool, loosely speaking, like terrifying shit. But like the use that they're having for it, it just seems so like really like I feel like people don't pay attention like 80% of the time. You're going to say that like we really need to be like cutting down on these like tiny fractional seconds. Like that just seems really odd.
I guess like
let them sleep instead.
If you're in space, like if you don't pay attention, like
just have them go to sleep.
Like naps. You're done.
Yeah.
If you don't pay attention, like the rotten eggs are coming for you.
No, because I simply don't believe that that's true. I think like it's probably even more automated than like flying a plane, to be honest.
No. They have to regularly go out and make up repairs.
Oh, I guess.
When they do spacewalks and stuff, they have to like make repairs.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You're like, well, I guess.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Who's to say?
Space is
not
complicated.
Me. Who's to say? It doesn't feel like it's for
Couldn't
me personally.
Be me. Couldn't be me.
So they're trying to abscond, and like yet again we're getting the visuals of like prisoners 2 steps away from the door of the jail when they get caught because I was trying to escape. Well, because Sam, they're like, we gotta work, we gotta go. And Sam, their advisor, is like runs up to them and she's like, wow, like I didn't know you guys were gonna be here. You have to come to brunch. You have to come, making a big announcement. I'm gonna tell you the announcement right now. It's that I'm retiring. You have to be there. And like she's like, why are you guys here? And Levi's like, oh, we just came up from Houston like for the conference for like a day. And she's like, wow, I didn't know there was a we. I'm so happy. I've been hoping for so long. And B literally like looks at Levi and she's like, he's like, no, we work together. And she's like, he's giving teenage boy trying to stop his mom from like revealing that he sleeps with like a stuffed animal or something. And she still doesn't like put 2 and 2 together.
She's still like,
what are you sheepish about? Right.
Like,
right.
Jesus Christ.
And this is like a little lab reunion. So like the real reason they're in a rush, but like the real reason B doesn't want to go is because like Tim and Annie will be there, but they end up going.
And she accidentally, before they get there, oh, I forget. I think he's like talking about, he's like, do you feel well? Like blah, 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 blah. And she accidentally calls him daddy. But unfortunately not in a sexy way. No, but she does recognize it that it could be sexy.
Yeah,
and
it's hilarious because she's like, he's like, remember to take my hand if you need it. And she's like, okay, daddy.
And then she's like, oh, just sprints. I was like, I feel like if I had the fainting condition, this would be a time that I would faint.
You would use it. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, fainting condition, narcolepsy. Yeah.
And this is the beginning of this chapter. She does it. There's like this whole, the way that it's written is like this whole hypothetical, like, I don't know, like we go on a journey. And at this point I don't know, I just like really like all the fourth wall breaking in this book. And I know that's something that I think is like a little controversial. Like I'm sure that I think there are a lot of people who are like fourth wall breaking in a book, like it's like lazy or whatever. But I don't know, I just really liked it. It felt very well integrated and it felt very much like a part of like B's character, and it was funny.
So they roll up and like Tim stands up to greet them and B's like, wow, like he really is just very mediocre looking now. Like, yeah, nice and good for you. Nice. And then like Levi goes to shake his hand and they go in for a bro hug and she's like, can't believe he's hugging him. But then like Levi like grabs his shoulder and like whispers something that makes Tim like, you know, blanch and like, yeah. And we never find out what he says.
I know.
I know.
That was another thing. I was like, what did Levi say? I was waiting for this reveal.
I feel like we can presume it's something like, you shitbag, fuck you, I'm ruining your career. Like, I don't know.
I will kill you. See this fork I'm holding against your ribs? I will put it in you if you don't leave her alone.
Oh
and then Levi proceeds to like roast anyone who like tries to embarrass her.
And then like Levi's like, as an aside, he's like, wait, so like, did everyone think I didn't like you? It wasn't just your delusion? Like, also, like, let me remind you that they only overlap for one year. Like, how is this like the juiciest, like the only inside joke that everyone has? Like, I don't get it. Like, how does everyone have this inside joke when it was only a year? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like all her former advisees basically at this brunch.
Yeah.
So B leaves to go to the bathroom because she's like, I need to take a breather. And guess who corners her in the bathroom? I'll let you describe this scene because this scene was more important for you than it was to me.
Annie. And Annie is basically like, can we talk? Like, I'm so sorry. This isn't really a twist on the whole classic, like, yes, I cheated on you, but I was thinking of you the whole time. Because like in this situation, it's not a romantic partner saying it, but Annie's like, I was thinking of you the whole time I was screwing Tim. And she's like, it lasted a week. Like, we are not together. Like, no, fuck him. Like, he's like, you're so much better than him. And Annie's like, yeah, like, she's like, in a weird way, like, you always had Tim, and like, you always had like, I don't know, like, it just seemed like everything was perfect. And like, in a weird way, like, I wanted to like, be more like you in like the worst way possible. And she's like, yeah. And I thought I would just give you like a few weeks to calm down, and then like the summer, and then I would see you at Vanderbilt, but then like the summer passed and you weren't there, like, and you blocked my number. So like, I never got to like, I was just like shocked that you didn't come or whatever, which I did like, because this whole time I had this like huge injustice feeling of like the fact that she was the one who got like shunted from her like dream job position, basically, but like, I guess it somehow didn't occur to Annie that like she'd be mad enough to like not, like, or to Tim. Yeah. And Annie is basically like, yeah, it just ends. It's just like very like, B like also kind of apologizes, and you didn't like this, but like,
what do you mean kind of apologize? She outright apologizes.
Well, she's like, I'm sorry, like I'm sorry I wasn't like a good enough friend to realize that you were feeling like insecure. That because like we've heard multiple times, like whenever Annie's described, B's like, yeah, she's the most beautiful person ever. Like, she's so confident all the time, like no insecurity. Is like, she's just always so perfect. And then Annie's like, yeah, I was like super insecure, and like, I don't know, just like going home alone every night, like whatever, like made me feel bad. And no, but but the reason, like, it's not that B is like, oh, like, you're right, it's okay that you slept with Tim, because like, it was really my fault.
I don't think that I think it's like
a separate, totally separate parallel.
I'm sorry is for. I think even separately from that, and I don't think that, I hate this trope in which like two people do something wrong, but it's like very clear that like one person's in the wrong and the other person was wronged, and yet somehow the author, and this isn't just an Ali Hazelwood thing, and it's usually the romantic partner, and it usually happens at the end of the romance, but it's not like, I hate the like, oh, we both apologize, and B says like she apologizes to her too for, quote, not being there for her, and I just like, I'm like, no, B, you did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. Like, yes, should you be aware of your friends' like feelings, and should you try to like, make sure that you're looking out for your friends and like not just assuming like everything is okay? Sure. But it's not your responsibility to read someone's mind. Like, if Annie is projecting this confident, like whatever persona, and that's all she's allowing you to see, it's not your responsibility to be like, oh, she's actually insecure and she's feeling all these ways about me and Tim and me and whatever. Like, why are you apologizing? I hate the implication that like that B was in any way a bad friend here, because she wasn't. It's not your responsibility to read someone else's mind. And I know she's not saying this to like excuse Annie, like, cheating, sleeping with Tim, but like, there is an element in where she's like it's not an excuse, but she's like, oh, like, yeah, it's part of the explanation. Like, I don't know, I should have been there for you. Like, I don't know. I was just like, no, like you did nothing wrong. Like you can accept her apology and you could try to move it because afterward they like agree to like text sometimes now, you know, they're starting to like mend their relationship. And I'm like, that's fine. Like you're allowed to accept her apology. Like it's very much genuine. Like that is the ball is in your court. But like the fact that B apologizes really grinds my gear. I just hate that trope.
Yeah, it just didn't, for some reason. I don't like that either usually, but it just didn't feel like that for some reason for me. And I get what you're saying about like not needing to be a mind reader, but then like what does it mean to try to be like aware of and care about your friend's feelings? You know, like I mean, I guess like if they communicate,
like what is she gonna do? Hold her down and being like, "What are you actually feeling? You can't be this confident." Like if
no, but maybe Annie thought maybe Annie we didn't really get like a detailed look into this. Like maybe Annie like was, but B just like didn't see it, you know, like didn't.
But again, that's like if someone.
But Allison, let me put it this way, okay? Like you were saying about Josh in the hating game, not standing up for Lucy in like the workplace thing. Are you going to say there like, well, he's not a mind reader. How could he know that like he had to stand up for her, you know?
No, because that's like an objective like right and wrong. Like if someone is experiencing like like gender discrimination in the workplace, you stand like
sure. Well, but like he's not a mind reader.
Push back against that. No, but like that's like
I know, but you could say the same thing. Like if someone's experiencing like feeling excluded, feeling like
I don't know. And maybe I'm just projecting because that's something that I get really frustrated with in my own relationships. And maybe it's like, it's just like the autism thing and the fact that like I don't like, I am even worse at mind reading than the average Joe. And I hate, like I get so frustrated. And I've had relationships with people, like friendships that like people I'm no longer friends with that dissolved because like someone was feeling some type of way. And it like wasn't communicated. I was like, if you're feeling some type of way, I need you to tell me about it. And like, don't turn me into the villain if you don't tell me about it. And I get so, I'm like, just tell me, just fucking, like, you don't have to be like, pour your heart out to me, but at the very least be like, hey, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not feeling 100%.
No, I mean, like, you're right. And I feel like it's partly like ask versus guess culture. I have also been the friend who's like, had friendships fall apart because I'm like the Annie in the situation. Not like that I've cheated with someone's beyond, like not that I've like reacted to it in that way, but because I was the person who felt like not seen, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are definitely relationships. Like, I'm not saying that I haven't been the Annie in this situation in which I, you know, have felt upset about something and not articulated it. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a paragon of communication, like completely opposite. But that's usually something where I just like stew silently about it. Exactly. And then like I either get over it or like I just let the friendship drift apart. I don't like hurt, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, sure. But again, I just don't think it's connected. Like, I guess it could. I don't think
because that's Annie's explanation.
Yeah.
She's not justifying her actions. Yeah. She's explaining them. And I do like that it's like very clear that like Annie is not excusing what she did and the book is not excusing what she did. But I think I just like was really, because I was already, listen, my justice meter was already like spiking for B this entire book because like she'd been so wronged that like I think I was already primed to like see injustice. And so I was like, why are you apologizing, B? You have nothing to apologize for. You did nothing wrong.
But in a way, based on like outcome-based morality only, imagine if Annie hadn't slept with Tim and B just like stayed with Tim, this man who's like, if it wasn't Annie, it was going to be someone else. Like he definitely kept cheating on, you know, like he kept cheating on her with other people. No,
he did. She said
right. So like, and I feel like that's possibly like the one thing that could have gotten B to break up with him like at that moment instead of like maybe dragging it out for like decades, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. The outcome was better, but Annie didn't do that.
I know. No, I don't know. For whatever reason, this scene was like really, I don't know, it really like hit me hard. I don't know if it was because I was coming off of the like, it was like, you know how you're supposed to like give someone, if you want to give someone bad news or like, what is it? It's like if you want to tell someone like bad news, you should tell them like fake worse news at first and then correct it so they have this like relief high, you know? So like I think I was coming off
believe that actually works.
Well, I was like so tense and like just like so much anxiety from like the scene where she like sees Annie and Tim across the room that I think I was like so relieved to have it. Like, I don't know. I don't know why it's so emotional because like I don't think I've ever like experienced something like this, but I think I've had dreams where I have like emotional reunions with like people that I've had falling outs with, like not even people that I've like actually had. I'm not saying like people that I've had falling outs with like in real life. I'm just saying like in the dream, I have some history of like falling out with like someone, and then like we have like I don't know what to tell you. It's really a rush. It's a rush.
Yeah. And I also just found the last thing I'll say, this scene, it was satisfying insofar as I found Annie's apologizing satisfying, but it was unsatisfying because this is like what I was talking about in the last episode, in which some things felt like they should have been through lines and instead were resolved in a way that felt like they were just being checked off a box. And like this felt like, okay, she needs to like put this to bed with Annie in order to like move forward with her relationship with Levi. And I would have been fine with that if Annie had somehow come back and somehow like contributed to like the finale, or like if she had it, because this is the last time we see Annie and she's like mentioned briefly in the epilogue, but like Annie has no more relevance to the book. And so I felt kind of like I felt like I was left hanging a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't feel that at all. I thought it was like fine resolved. And I would say like in a less concrete sense, like she did need to resolve the thing with Annie to move forward with Levi, just because
sure.
Yeah, just because like Annie is one of those like relationships that she's like they will always end. Like, you know.
No, I agree that it needed to be resolved and she needed to like fully realize that like, oh, I actually like I'm over Tim, like I'm done with that, and then like and repair things with Annie. Like that definitely needed to happen in order for the relationship to move forward. I just felt like in the grand scheme of the book, I would have liked Annie to like come back somehow. You know what I mean? Like it felt the ending felt very abrupt for Annie's storyline.
Maybe. Fair. There was only like one thing in particular that I felt like was resolved in a really weird way. But yeah, I think we agree on that too.
The finale.
Yeah.
But like the best way too. I was like so jazzed.
But the best way, but like it could have been like perfect, you know? Like it just needed that element. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so so then she's like, she realized that she's like almost indifferent with Tim. It just reminds me of that like Taylor Swift quote, like you don't have to forgive. You don't have to forget to move on. You can move on without any of those things happening. You just become indifferent and then you move on.
I forgot
like,
that you
just
existed.
So true. Yeah, exactly. No, it's not even a song quote. I think she just like said that, but
no,
so true.
No, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I forgot that you do.
I mean, no, there's definitely people where I'm still like, I don't forgive you for what you did.
Yeah.
And I certainly haven't forgotten about it, but I've gotten to the point in my life in which I don't give a shit about you
heart
anymore.
Palpitations. Yeah.
Like, yes. And and for a lot of those people, it required like muting them on all social media, like because I didn't have like the balls to like unfollow them or block them because like I didn't want to start anything, but like muting them, so like I literally did not see them for years, and then finally I'm like, oh, I wonder, like go check back up on them, and then I'm like, oh, I feel nothing for you anymore. Right. Okay, we can see each other's posts again.
Oh yeah, I forgot that you existed. Right. It's great feeling. Okay, so they're gonna drive back, and Levi is like, again, like, I don't know why this man doesn't make a fucking move. Like, dude, he's like, B, I'm not sure I should be telling you this. And I'm like, why not? You know, she's aware of how shit Tim is. Like, why not tell her literally anything and everything that makes Tim look bad? Like, why? And he's like, well, you know that like I was really bad at communicating like back in the day, but like I could talk to normal people. I just couldn't talk to you. Like, and she's like, so I'm not normal? And he's like, no, like you don't get it. I was like really into you. Like, whatever, you know, if he's basically like says everything but like I was in love with you, like, and I just like got flustered and couldn't talk to you, like, and he's like, when you were wearing that dress that one night, and she's like, my $12 Target dress. And he's like, the dress. And then he further, so I feel like we didn't really need, we kind of needed both of these reasons, but he's like, further the reason that he was extra weird and like wouldn't even sit next to her or talk to her is that Tim apparently, I guess, somehow immediately sensed how into her Levi was, because I guess he stares at her when she's not looking. Everyone else sees that, whatever. Like no one else realized. And Tim went up to Levi and told him, like asked him, he was like, B knows you're into her and it makes her really uncomfortable. Like, I need you to back off and leave her alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And like, and B is rightfully like, I can't believe Tim knew and like successfully manipulated Levi into staying away while he screwed his way through the pit student body. But also like because I forget if we said this earlier, but like Tim told B that Levi told him not to marry her.
Yeah, that he could do better
once they got engaged. And that just seems like, why did he even bother saying that? Like, it's just a weird, I guess to make her hate him more because he like saw.
I was thinking we were gonna get a reveal that actually Levi told Tim that she was better than him.
That's what I thought too. That was another one of those things that I was like surprised. Yeah, I thought he was gonna be like, well, but then the problem is that could require, or you just thought in general, not like the cheating thing. Because I thought it was going to be something
not even the cheating thing, but just like him being like, she's better than you, Tim. Like, she could do better.
True. Okay, yeah, because I was thinking it would be like that Levi knew about the cheating thing, but like for some reason. But then that would require like an explanation as to why he didn't tell her. So
I don't think he did. Yeah, I don't think
Levi
did.
Again, if like allegedly Levi can talk to quote normal people, but he was like the only person that didn't know. Maybe B is like overstating how many people knew about Tim cheating.
Well, also if they only overlapped for 1 year, like how, and she didn't find out about Tim's cheating until like a few years after that.
Like 3 years.
So like it's possible that like he didn't even really do anything. Like people didn't even know during that one.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I'm like, why don't they get together now? But there's going to keep being like
they're interrupted
things that happen. Yeah, it's always, oh my God.
And listen, yes.
Hilarious.
Was it about my favorite sapphics kissing in the office and getting caught on the video cameras?
Allison, they weren't just kissing. They were literally fucking on B's desk in the NASA camera offices.
Yes. Okay. So like, yes, was I overjoyed to hear this news that they had officially gotten together and were having hot sex all over government facilities? Yes. Was I still upset that it interrupted the confession scene? Also, yes.
God. And this is like the probably 15th of like 10,000 times that this happens. But basically like, yeah, Boris is like, oh, you guys need to like discipline them or whatever. And then they like, there's like no repercussions for Rocio and Kaylee, which
they're just like, don't do it again.
Very far-fetched. Like, I'm just like, it's Rocio's like, you can't be telling, like, B's not my mother and I'm not a minor and you're not my doctor. This is a HIPAA violation.
Boris is like,
HIPAA?
That's not what HIPAA is.
That's what you think it means.
But like, honestly, the balls to like try to like HIPAA your way out of it.
I know. She's like, Marie would know what to do. Like, too bad her notes are too radioactive to be touched until the year 3035. Like, maybe I can go into the Bibliothèque Nationale and get like and then like basically nothing, there's no consequences. They're just like, off you go.
No.
And then Levi's like, that was excellent practice for when we'll have teenage daughters. And B's like, he doesn't mean together, idiot. Like, he absolutely does. He absolutely does. And then B's like, they're young. Their frontal lobes aren't fully developed yet.
Which is true. It's like true. They are under 25.
That neuroscience. Yeah. Neuroscience fact got thrown in this neuroscience book.
And then they have some sciencey breakthrough about the helmet. Something. And at this point, like they're having this breakthrough like, and all I could be like is like, just kiss. Please just kiss. And then the next scene.
Because they go to her house and then yet another like, and I was like, oh good, it's going to be like an excuse for him to come into her house that she thinks of this and they're going to make out. And no.
They go back. Spin her. And then she's like, are you going to kiss me in the office? They go back. They're in the office.
No. They go, he drops her off. And like, as she's getting out of the car, she's like, Eureka, sciencey breakthrough. And she's like, come inside. And they like run upstairs. And she like writes down like exactly how to fix the protocol. And she's like jumping up and down, excited. And he picks her up and like spins her around. And then the kiss, but they're still at her house.
No, because then they start making out in the office with the cameras.
No. Maybe. Yeah. What? No, because he leaves her. No, because he wouldn't just leave her at the office. Think about it. She's home.
Oh, I thought they were at the office. No. And I was like, right after this camera scene, you guys are like, he has his whole her whole boob in his mouth.
No.
Yeah, so she's like, are you going to kiss me? And then he's like, no. And I screamed internally, but then good news, they do kiss. And then they have some hot and heavy making out. And then he has her whole boob in his mouth over the shirt, the grinding. Yes,
God,
he
she loves
puts her
that.
boob
That's
in his
another Ali
mouth.
Hazelwood classic.
He
She's like, I know what the
unhinges
people
his jaw.
want. Unhinged is correct. It's indeed. That's correct.
And then he gets a phone call, and I think I was just conditioned from Twisted Love. I thought we were gonna get another scene in which like couple continues to hook up while man is on phone. But alas, it was not. Alas, it was a phone call from his single mom friend, and Levi is like, "Oh, I gotta go."
And to his credit, like he doesn't even realize the phone is ringing. She has to say it multiple times, which is like,
yeah.
Why? Why is your phone on ringer? Like, I just don't. I mean, I guess.
If you're working for like a government facility, and also we find out that like
even better reason to turn it off. Like, no.
Sure. But we also find out like his single mom friend, the daughter, Penny, has epilepsy. So like he probably keeps it on like in case there's a medical emergency, which is what happened right now.
Fair. He does not explain that. So like yet another example of like failed communication, but whatever. So the next day, B's like, I just can't stop thinking about him. Like, I'm just like wondering where he is. And like Rocio notices that she's like spacey. And Rocio's like, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about me and Kaylee fucking on your desk right there? And B's like, I think this is sexual harassment. And Rocio's, I don't mind. She's like, no, you're harassing me. Like,
leave me alone.
And then B reads this article that came out from like the makers of the GRE, and it's basically like, who are at What Marie Do and at Schmacademics the influencers behind this anti-GRE article? What vast monetary operations do they have behind them? Like, it's just this whole like, and they're like, admissions committees simply don't have the time to fully read thousands of application packets. And you know what? Like, who does want to read thousands of application packets? My question, though, is then why are you making people write such long application packets, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's so ridiculous. Also, like, I don't know if I haven't thought this through. It just popped into my head as like something that I feel like would make sense. But why not just like, you should limit the number of schools that people can apply to. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be there. I mean, I know why they don't do that, because then they would get less money from application fees, right?
Yeah.
But like, it would save people money. Like, yes, I mean, you have to be more selective. Like, you'd have to be more strategic about like where you apply. But I don't know. That just seems like it would make way more sense. Like, then they would have less applications that they could fully read. People would save money.
I'm also just thinking of like for grad school, like I feel like there are far less options than there are for undergrad. You know what I mean? Like the program that you want to study only exists. I mean, it's not crazy limited, particularly like
no, yeah, it's way less.
But like it's not like undergrad where like you could basically go anywhere and like study what you want to study with like some small exceptions. Like there's only certain colleges have certain programs.
Yeah, wild. But then Levi like doesn't come to work, and she's just left wondering.
But she's still like, oh, it's fine, it means nothing, he just had a crush on me in grad school. He clearly doesn't have a crush on me
out
anymore.
of his system.
I was like, he basically said he loved you 5 seconds ago. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like quite literally. No basic about it. Yeah. So then she goes to his house, or he comes to her house or something, and
he's like, you left your backpack in the rental car. So he brings her the backpack to her house, and she's like, you dummy, like come in. And then we get the explanation. So the single mom, what's her name? I never wrote down her name.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, she has a daughter named Penny.
Yeah.
The single mom.
Very
SM.
Lily.
Oh, Lily. She finds out that we find out who Sullivan is. Sullivan. And basically like her husband was Peter Sullivan, and he was Levi's best friend. And Peter died in a rock climbing accident, which is very traumatizing because Levi was there and
his
like
head
saw him
cracked
like,
open.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's where we're at.
Yeah. And this was like Peter Sullivan was like the person who like first started Blink and everything, so that's why Levi took over. So he and Lily did date, but it was like before he, I guess, went to Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
So, because then he met, her, and she's still like, oh, that means so dumb. But yeah, so we find that out. So, don't worry, in case you were worried the single mom was going to be competition. She's not.
No, she's chill.
And naturally B comforts him. And her daughter Penny had like a epilepsy attack. So like, that's why he like rushed out to like be with her in the hospital. And so naturally B comforts him with a makeout session. And hey, Rachel. Hey, Rachel.
What?
Guess what?
What?
They do a little dry hump and she orgasms. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's like a given, but he doesn't seem able to translate that into sex. So instead we get the delusion of like, oh, he hits the right spot inside me. Like, get out of here.
Okay, some people are sensitive in their G-spot, Rachel.
But that's not the message. Yeah.
There were some times that I did note where he was like, it was like he was doing shallow, shallow thrusts.
No, because it was like a weird like descriptive. It was like shallow then deep, like whatever.
I don't know.
Whatever.
But I'm not gonna
eat
her out a lot. He eats his cum out of her at one point.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why. I just really am not.
That was a big old turn on.
Objectively, like it shouldn't be like. It's no, blowjobs are a thing, but like, whatever. You guys. This was vibes
at least
for me.
The man is falling to come this time.
No, that's why. That's for some reason. That's why it's worse. Like, I don't know.
It's a little homophobic of you, Rachel.
No, it's that it's your own juice. I don't know why. I don't know why. I always hate that. Like, whenever he's like, let me like finger you and then make you like lick it. It's like, no, not. It's a no for me. Like,
it's your own. You just have the problem when it's your own juices.
Yeah, no self juicing for me personally.
Self juice. Yeah. Why did I just have a mental image of those like hand juicers where you like rub the lemon against it? I just imagine like one of those like descending over your head.
Wash your brain, as it were. Yeah.
Self juice.
Oh Lord, yeah, no, it's a no for me.
Freshly squeezed. So they have sex, and the bed is too big for him, which I thought was great. And then they're also like, we don't need a condom because B is on birth control, and I'm again like STDs, and like I guess they do have a conversation that they have not had sex in a while, so they're like, oh, well, and they use the word clean, which I don't like, but I'm like, yeah, but like you could have like dormant STD, like you can still have STDs. Like,
oh yeah, I wanted to know the specific. When they're dry humping, she's like, I started rocking on top of him and the friction of his erection against my clit is already the best sex I've ever had. And I'm like, yeah, because there's actual friction on your clit, unlike all of the sex you're about to have. Like, and probably had with
stimulation,
right? Like, girl.
And then we get, so arguably, and this is where I was like who is Ali Hazelwood's editor? Like, I just want to talk, because like this sex was already a million times hotter than the love hypothesis, and we also got multiple and we also got multiple sex scenes. And maybe it's just been because it's been a while since I read the love hypothesis, and all I really remember about that sex scene is that he puts her entire boob in his mouth and she's wearing tube socks.
Too. Yeah.
But I was like,
canon? Is that canon, or did we make that up? Like,
no. She wears tube socks, and then we wore it to bed.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. We did a whole experiment.
Right.
We were little scientists. But yeah, I thought this sex scene was like so much hotter, and I was like, Allie, like, don't be shy, show us your full potential. And like, I knew she had to have this in her because she has a fan fiction background, and there's no way she's writing Raylo fan fiction like that was popular enough that like an agent or an editor noticed her.
Is that what happened? You think?
That's usually how it is. That's usually how it is. That's crazy. Is that like but yeah, I was like, there's no way. And like, now that I know she writes Omegaverse, I was like, Ali Hazelwood is being shot. Ali Hazelwood is like, free her. I was like, I just know your full potential. You haven't reached it. I want more. Like, I think she could be as like, how like Tessa Bailey is known for like her like really hot sex scenes and like dirty talk, especially. Like, I feel like Ali Hazelwood could be on that level if she wasn't restrained.
Right. I didn't realize. That's so cool, actually. I mean, it's kind of like the lottery, I feel like, but like, it's cool that I never thought of it as like, you're a fan fiction author, you're really popular, you don't even have to like do the work, someone can just like scout you, essentially. I never thought of that.
No, a lot of times that agents especially will be looking, and even me as an editor, like,
it makes total sense.
In nonfiction, I'll like keep an eye on like influencers and like spaces that I'm interested in, like on topics I'm interested in publishing, and like I will like reach out to them and be like, hey, like, are you interested in doing a book?
I figured that it's just one of those things that like it makes total sense. I just like, it's just one of those like things I never would have thought of because I'm not like in that space at all.
Well, it's the same thing that happened
like
with
how
50
the world,
Shades of
those
Grey.
things like how the world works with like jobs that you don't have. It's just like all these things that you take for granted. So no one ever says them because when they like take it for like an obvious thing because they like with it all the time, but you just never hear of it when you're like, what about 50 Shades of Grey?
That's what happened with 50 Shades of Grey too.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
It was like a really popular, I think on AO3 probably, or fanfiction.net. I'm not sure where it was.
Oh.
But it was really popular. And now it's like Wattpad. That's like the big fanfiction mining ground for
So do they so they didn't so I so because yeah, 'cause I thought it was like this person's like, I'm really good at this, let me like repurpose this and then submit it. So like they
Sometimes
didn't even repurpose it on their own. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, because it's usually like in this case, like she wrote a Reylo that was a Reylo AU. Like it was like basically like, yes, it was Kylo Ren and Rey, but they were, you know, in the real world doing science, you know, so it wasn't like in the Star Wars universe. And so that's what a lot of times it is. It's like, oh, these AUs that someone has basically created their own world, but it's just using these characters. So you change the characters a little bit and repurpose it.
Are there any plot similarities between Star Wars and like the Love Hypothesis first? No. Okay. I get it. No. So it's just like the characters look the same and maybe act the same.
Yeah. The character dynamics. I don't think there are any.
Okay, I'm just interested. Okay, so they have sex. Next day, I don't know. Do you have anything more to say?
No, other than once again, #free Ali Hazelwood.
But also like teach her how sex is supposed to work. Maybe it's because I'm just jaded now. So every time I read this, I'm like, I know the pokey is not doing anything. It's not that I'm jaded; it's that I'm like informed. Right?
Yeah, I know.
It's like this like what's the word? Delusion that like somehow this type of penetrated sex is supposed to feel good for the woman when really like, the closest we get is when she's like face down, but she's like flat, so it's like he's still hitting it from behind, which like is not great, but like she's at least against the bed, so it's like possible that the sheets are like doing something, you know, like which she also feels like it hurt,
goes down. She goes down on top of him. I'm like possibly but still up and down. I will say that he does. I mean, they do have a lot of penetrative sex, but he does finger her and eat her out a lot.
Yeah,
and he is very much about
and that's like sure, and that's like at least like a generous substitute, but it's like. The number, Allison, just the number of people that I personally talked to, like who were like, yeah, I just like, and me too, like I just like assumed that like we all just accepted that does nothing for you as a woman, and it's like, you know, you just got to make up for it in other ways, or like literally people who are like, yeah, I just thought I was asexual because I don't feel anything from that. I thought there was something wrong with me, like not that there's something wrong with you if you are asexual, like it's definitely still a real thing, but that like, oh, there was just like something about me that I couldn't enjoy this the way that other people do.
Yeah.
Which is just so, it makes me so angry. I don't know. Like, it's not Ali Hazelwood's fault. Like, this is much, like, it's like, this is like a general problem that most people like. But then when you realize it, it's like, oh my God, like, this makes total. Because I remember thinking, like, I was like, literally like, oh, like, it's so weird that like women's bodies are so poorly designed considering how sex works. Right? No, but like, that's what so many people think that. At least, right? Like, but no. Like, right, because like it doesn't make sense. Sex. It doesn't make sense from an evolutionary standpoint that women would be able to orgasm, but that isn't triggered at all by the procreative version of sex, right? Because the point of an orgasm is so that you like having babies, basically. Like that's evolutionarily, biology speaking, whatever. And that doesn't make sense. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. But then it does once you anyway.
We've been gaslit.
Anyway,
you gotta lead
next
the
day.
movement.
What's her dick boss's name? What is it?
Trevor
calls and he's like, "Great job, Toots. We're gonna have a huge meeting with all the political appointees, and it's gonna be in 2 weeks. So like, you better be ready." And she's like, "Literally, that's so fucking dangerous." But like, okay. Well, and he's like, "You better do it, or you're off the job." Like,
God,
they Boris says it too. Yeah,
they've done the prototype.
And
also, she may have a job.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, she may. He begs to be the test subject.
She may have a job at NASA after this because Boris is like, "Hey, it seems like your boss at the NIH is Dick. I could give you a lab here if you want. If this is successful."
Yes.
So that's exciting. Okay, so hooray! We're ending on a high note.
Woohoo!
Bonkers finale to come. Absolutely insane finale to come.
Oh my God. Let me write down like where.
Free Ali Hazelwood. I just want the entire book to be like that finale.
God. I just don't even know what to say. It's just so off the wall, so insane. I love it. Like it's just She just said, you know what? Yes, this is what we're doing. And, you know, this is yet another thing. It's like the guns. This is like my attitude also. But like, it just makes me think that Ali Hazelwood, not a runner, not a vegan, or at least if she is a runner, she's never not been a runner. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't know what it's like to be someone who's just starting out as a runner. Not a vegan, certainly never held a gun, which I haven't, you know, neither have I, but like, I don't know. Never been to Texas.
Well, I mean, especially if she grew up in Europe. Like,
oh, true. Yeah, right. No, that's so true. That's so true. It's like the classic, like thinking that, like, yes, it is much easier to get a gun in the U.S. Too easy, many might say, including me. Yes. But it is not like, yeah, no, okay. Not that you couldn't have gotten.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. Speaking of calling back to 50 Shades of Grey, how like,
oh my god, yeah.
How his like crazy ex-girlfriend gets like a concealed carry permit, and I'm like, E.L. James, I know the British look down on the U.S. gun laws, rightfully so, but like, y'all cannot get a concealed weapons permit 2 days after being let out of the psych ward
in Seattle, of all places. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah.
Anyway, let us know if you want us to do 50 Shades of Grey. And that note, tune in next week for the cat scale and the absolutely, again, the absolutely bonkers finale to this book.
Allison, where can they find us?
On Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at We Read It One Night, on Redbubble and for our merch, and Twitter at We Read It Podcast. And you can email us wereaditonenight@gmail.com and send in your lovely little listener suggestions. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review.
Woohoo!
A 5-star rating and a review. Can we get to 100 on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by the end of the year?
Woohoo! Each, not total. Each people.
Yeah, we're already at total.
Woohoo!
But each.
All right. Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.